All right. Okay. Let's make a start. We've got a very packed hour for you, a very exciting hour for you. So let's do that. And as others are coming in, they can catch up. Welcome everyone. My name is Shabnam Safar. I'm the National Training Lead at Community Refugee Sponsorship Australia, and have the delight and pleasure of being your host for this event today. I'll take you through the agenda and who will be joining us in a moment, very shortly. But before doing any of that, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of all the lands that we have dialed into this event today from. For me, that's the Wurundjeri and the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation here in Melbourne, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and any First Nations people who would be in this virtual room with us today. Feel free to let us know whose lands you've joined us from today in the chat. It would be nice to know where everyone's dialing from. A very few short housekeeping points from my end. We are recording today's session. I hope that's okay with everyone. If you don't want to be recorded, you can keep your camera off, but hopefully everyone will have their faces on screen. It's always nice to see everyone. And we're also broadcasting live on our Facebook page for people who, for whatever reason, couldn't manage to make it to the Zoom session. So I hope that's all good. It's Refugee Week, everyone. We've been looking forward to this event since we did this event last year at Refugee Week, and been really, really looking forward to all of you joining us. And once again, thank you for giving us your time and almost ending Refugee Week on such an incredible note. We've got a stellar lineup of speakers for you, including the Minister for Immigration and Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs, Andrew Giles, joining us later today. You will also hear from participants of the CRISP program and how it's all going for them, on the ground and in their own communities. We will launch some very exciting videos in this hour today, and you'll also hear from us, the CRISA organization, about the program and some of the other work that we are involved and busy with. Once again, I think we've got a very tight schedule because we've tried to pack as much as we can and make this well worth your time. So what I'll do is I'll do a very quick intro of speakers now, and then I'll pass on to them, and then I will be out of your way and I won't be coming here and disturbing the vibe very much. So as I've already mentioned, we will have Andrew Giles, the Minister, joining us shortly. We've also got Emily Chipman, who's the Senior Durable Solutions Officer at the UNHCR, the UN High Commission for Refugees, who would be speaking to us a little bit about the global context very shortly. We have John Shibemba and Peter Deutschmann from the CRISP program, the participants themselves, sharing their stories very soon. Lisa Button, our CEO, Romy Vitalian, who's the CRISP program director, speaking with you as well today. And obviously a man who probably does not need much introduction, Blaise Itabello, our national manager for community engagement, that you all know about. On that note, I'm going to pass it on to Blaise to tell us about Refugee Week and the theme and why we're all here today. Over to you, Blaise.
Friends, good afternoon. Today we gather to celebrate a profound journey, a journey from strangers to family, a journey of freedom and new connections. This journey is not just mine, but it resonates very deeply with many, many, many people among us who have found new homes, new friends, and a renewed sense of belonging in this very wonderful country of ours that we call Australia. I stand before you today not just as a former refugee, but as someone who has actually witnessed firsthand the transformative power of community and kindness. In my own experience, when I first arrived in this country in 2000,
we seem to have lost your audio, Blaise.
I muted myself, sorry. I stand before you today, not just as a former refugee, but as someone who has actually witnessed to firsthand the transformative power of community and kindness. When I arrived in this country, in my own experience in 2011, I was stepping into the unknown. Everything was unfamiliar. The language, the culture, even the faces. Yet it was the warmth and openness of strangers that turned my insanity into hope. Friends, my experience is almost similar to many refugees that are coming in this country. Someone asked me recently, what does it feel like being in a refugee camp? And it took me a little bit longer to try to find the best ways of explaining this. But I think one of the best way of explaining this could be, think about being in jail where you're deprived with almost all your basic human right. That's what it feels like. You lose your freedom. You lose your sense of belonging. You lose your humanity. And then one day you finally find freedom. But yet you find freedom, you have to struggle with almost pretty much everything. For many refugees that are coming in this country, it's always the same thing. They leave behind everybody they know, everything they know. They come in this country, start learning everything from the scratch, from language to even using some basic appliances. In this movement, we've been witnessing the transformation. We've been witnessing how connections are actually possible to be made. This program has actually shown us that it's actually possible to start a new life in this country and making new family, meeting new people that you will actually form some long-lasting memories. We continue hearing every single day of connections that are being made as part of this program. Today, let me just say that I hope you will be inspired with what has been done and yet what is yet to come. There is a role for everyone in this program, and people that have made a difference is in making these new connections, in making these new families. Trust me, are people like you and I. And I hope that as you hear what is happening today, as you hear stories of transformation, that you will get inspired. You will get inspired to think about what is it that you can do on your end as well. Let me end it there, and I will pass on to Lisa Button, the CEO of CRISA.
Thank you, Blaise and Shabnam, and all of you for being here. I won't take up too much of your time, but we are, as a team, at the end of a whirlwind refugee week. We've had about a dozen in-person and online events around the country, but this is the big one, the national one that everyone can participate in. So you're in the right place. Thank you for your time. And thank you very much to the dozens of supporting community organisations who not only support our work day to day, but have helped us to promote this event to their networks. And another thanks to our partners in the federal government, the Department of Home Affairs, who are such vital collaborators in the work that we do. So August will mark 2 years since the first arrivals came to Australia through the CRIS program, but our organisation, while we celebrate that program and we continue to throw everything we have behind it, we're so much bigger in our aspiration than the CRISP. We existed before CRISP, and our mission and vision goes well beyond it. In addition to the CRISP program that you'll hear so much about today, we are heavily involved in advocacy for new policy settings that will enable the community sponsorship movement to continue to grow, for permanence in this wonderful pilot program, for additionality, new visas, so that these approaches can build the number of people who get to come to safety in Australia every year, as well as new streams of community sponsorship, and in particular, a better stream that would allow Australians to or nominate a refugee known to them through this community sponsorship approach. So we're building a movement. It's a movement of people. It's a movement of kindness. We're engaging powerful new allies in this movement every day, who are developing greater and greater understandings of the refugee experience and offering their support to people fleeing conflict and persecution. We now have more than 120 groups in every state and territory around the country. It's quite amazing. That's more than 1,000 individuals who are members of those groups volunteering their time in very significant ways. And if we assume that each of those individuals has contact and support from, say, 10 other people in their networks, their family, their friends, their employers, local real estate agents, that means that there's more than 10,000 Australians being touched by this program already. That ripple effect is enormous. And I think that's quite a conservative estimate. So in addition to that, we have more than 500 refugees who've been directly benefited from this approach by being matched with a community supporter group and enjoying the warm welcome and practical support that comes from that. We're also part of a global movement. It's not just an Australia-wide movement, and we'll hear more from Emily Chipman about both the global dimensions of the refugee challenge as well as the global sponsorship and complementary pathways movement. I'll draw to a close by just encouraging those of you who are involved in work to be loud and proud about what you do and inspire others. I think often we're modest and we like to keep our accomplishments and our generosity quiet. But I've been really inspired recently reading a book called Infectious Generosity by Chris Anderson, the head of TED. You'd all have heard of TED Talks, I'm sure, who has observed that with the help of the internet, simple, ordinary, unremarkable human kindness has the power to ripple outward like never before. And I think you'd all agree with me that never have we needed human kindness more than we need it now. For those of you who are not yet directly involved, I challenge you to consider if there's anything more you might be able to do to support this movement, either in your working lives or in your private lives. I've recently taken the plunge myself in my private capacity and formed a group to participate in the CRIS program. And I have learned so much just in a few short months. And it's been a wonderful experience as we look forward to welcoming a family of 6 in August. So before I hand back to Blaise, I will introduce a video that I hope will also bring inspiration to you all, featuring the wonderful community in Goulburn, New South Wales, Maggie Patterson and the Alcuzi family and other members of that support group. And I'll leave you in Blaise's capable hands after that. Thank you all.
The community of Goulburn is well known for being really friendly, and that's one of the reasons why we live here. Well, the Alcuzis arrived in Australia about 16 months ago, and the community has welcomed with open arms this beautiful family, and we have been given support at every level.
وجود الأصدقاء بطريقنا ساعدونا كتير ونظموا لنا حياتنا، علمونا شغلات كتير، شفنا الطيبة بقلوبهم، ناس بتعطي بدون مقابل.
I heard about CRIS and I just thought, at last there's something that just ordinary community members can do to make a difference in a really complex space. And it spoke to me personally. We were overseas and our daughter Isla became very ill. And so during the 2 months while Isla lay in ICU, our family was just so carried by the local community. And when Isla passed away, I just wanted to remember the friendship of strangers. And so on social media, I saw CRISP advertised and I thought, oh, this is it.
أحلى شيء إنه الأولاد هون بأمان، هلا عم يبلشوا يستقروا، هلا عم يبلشوا ينموا مواهبهم.
The 2 boys, George and Ilias, are doing really, really well. They're excelling at the school. When Ilias came to Australia, he'd never seen a swimming pool. Within 6 months, he was winning the school freestyle race at the swimming carnival. George is in the school band, and they just love school. They're being given their childhood back. The family have been through a lot, as most refugees have prior to entering Australia. And so what we've been able to provide as a group is just a very soft landing.
تم اختطافي من قبل عصابات حجزوني عندهم لمدة تقريبا 11 شهر و26 يوم، يعني تقريبا سنة.
خسرنا ناس، خسرنا عالم، خسرنا كتير ناس قريبة لإلنا، شي ماتوا، شي انخطفوا، شي هاجروا بعدوا.
There's been lots of really beautiful moments in terms of community connection, in terms of friendship, in terms of networking. Ian Anderson is in our group. He knew that Mazen had bees back in Syria, and so the next thing you know, Mazen has got beehives in the backyard. George wanted a dog, and the Favaloros, who are in our group, they had a puppy that was just perfect. It's like there's this reservoir of goodness in the community, and CRISP enables that reservoir to spring up. I would ask, why wouldn't you do this? Because you're resourced through CRISP, you're supported in every way, the training is unbelievable, you are in such safe and capable hands. It's empowering. It's actually empowering to step into a space where we're focusing on one family. If everybody does the same, we have a solution to a complex problem. I often say this is the most exciting thing that I've ever been a part of.
ولحد الآن كل ما حكيت مع أهلي أو حكوا معي بقول لهم ما تعتلوا همنا، أنا عندي هون عائلة تاني، عندي اللي هنن جروب كريس اللي بتشكرهم من قلبي إنه طلعونا عن جد، عطونا الأمل.
Indeed, from strangers to families. This is what we're talking about, a journey of connections. Thank you for joining us in watching that video. Friends, if you've been following us since March, you may recall in March we made an ambitious commitment and target to get 100 groups in 100 days. First thing first, let me take this time to thank you all who've been part of this initiative, for the groups that have put their hands up in being part of the CRISP, for our organizations that have hosted us in numerous events and activities to promote this program. To all of you in general, a big shout out and a big thanks from all of us at CRISA. I wish you were in the same room so you can hear all of us clapping and really smiling. This hasn't been an easy journey. We have done a lot. One thing that you might have noticed is that we committed to share with you 100 reasons why people should be part of this movement. And at least every single day on our social media, we've shared different perspectives from our supporters, people that have directly been part of the CRISP program, from supporters to refugee participants, sharing their own experiences and reasons why people should be involved in the CRISP program. At some point, all of us staff members, we went into our neighborhood, dropping flyers and encouraging our own neighbors to be part of this initiative. There have been films that we've developed, and this is one of the short clip that you just saw here. On the event side, we've been very busy, about 31 events that we've conducted from March. And we're very lucky that during this Refugee Week alone, we've actually been part of 10 events, with some of them being local events and others being national events. We've reached out to thousands and thousands of people. Some of our events, we've had a total of about 560 people that have attended directly our event. That represents thousands of other members in their local communities. Our partners, supporting community organization, fantastic bunch of organizations who share the same passion with us, who are really ready to see a new Australia, an Australia that actually values people, an Australia where people are ready to make a difference to refugees that are coming to our country, to make it easy. That's how I always call it, to make it easy for those that are coming here, anxious with this new life, anxious about how to start a new life in a new country. This is what our partner organizations are all about, working with us, in mobilizing in their own communities, supporting us, reaching members out there. We've actually had 11 media mentions. Really grateful for all these opportunities. Again, opportunities that are helping us to amplify this message a little bit further in the community. I've always believed that the challenge is not actually people joining the CRISP, but the challenge is getting this message to other people. And that's why I've always said in every event that I'm part of, I would always encourage people, now it's your turn to become an ambassador. It's your turn to share what you just said today to someone else, because that's the biggest challenge we have. Friends, let me take a time to pause again here, because I think we have a reason to celebrate. I think we have a reason for all of us. If there is someone next to you, give them a high five, because we have collectively achieved something great. When we launched this initiative, we did not know what we're capable of. We knew we can do this, and we trusted the community to respond to our call. I'm actually very pleased to share. To date, we have got 79 new group commitment. There have been 79 groups out there across the country. They've put their hands up and saying, we will not sit back. We want to take a step. We want to be part of this new movement. We don't want to be one of those that just blame others in the background or do nothing. We want to be at the forefront of making refugees feeling welcomed. We want to walk with somebody as they start their new journey in this country. Out of the 79 groups, we've got 12 groups that have actually repeated. These are folks that have already sponsored before, and they've said, it's been too fun, it's been too nice, we're not just gonna stop here, we'll do it again. 12 groups. Something that is very incredible, the video that you just saw now, and I'm very pleased to share. I just came back from Goulburn, where community leaders from local government officials to faith leaders to community members came together to celebrate the achievement that has been done as part of the CRISP program. And the commitment from the locals was made to have 10 more groups. And these 10 more groups will actually see 10 new refugee households calling Goulburn home. How incredible is that, friends? Now, this is Goulburn. I do believe your community can do the same. And across the CRISP program, across the country, we've seen clusters coming. And I'm sure when Romy comes, the CRISP National Director, could be able to share some of these with you. Our aim is to see for communities, for example, that are not designated refugee settlement areas, that we could start with one household. And in 12 months, we can have 10 more, similar to what we'll be doing in Goulburn. Friends, we've got 79 groups. Today, I want to challenge you. As part of this initiative, we don't want to give up on 79. We want to get to 100 as we initially wanted to see this happening. So please, by August, I want you to think about the role you want to play as part of this initiative. Please go out there, talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to the folks you work with. We want to achieve 100 groups by August, and we're counting on you. We're counting on the generosity of Australians. And please, let me put this burden to all of us that we can work together. And we look forward to seeing your expression of interest as part of this program so that by August, we've got 100 groups. This time, let me welcome our colleague, Emily, from the UNHCR to provide an update. Over to you, Emily.
Thank you, Blaise, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to present today during Refugee Week, and congratulations to the Community Refugee Sponsorship Australia and the volunteer for the hard work and the promising result. I am calling you today from the land of the Ngunnawal people, and I pay my respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. Refugee Week is an occasion to pause and consider the hardships and challenge of forcibly displaced people, but also shine a light on the incredible resilience of refugees and the project and initiatives that contributed to support them. Refugee Week is also the week when UNHCR released its Global Trends report. So I thought to share some figures as a start. Can we please open the PowerPoint? As you see on the slide, and based on this newly released report, There are an historic 117.3 million forcibly displaced people worldwide by the end of 2023. Of those forcibly displaced, 31.6 million refugees are under UNHCR mandate, which represent, unfortunately, a 7% increase compared to last year. Next slide, please. But on a more positive note, in 2023, 6.1 million forcibly displaced people were able to return home, including over 1 million refugees. Over 30,000 were naturalized in their host country, and nearly 160,000 were resettled to a third country. So while about 1.2 million found a solution, persecution, conflict, and insecurity still led us to an increase of 2.7 million. In fact, the failure to uphold peace and security leads to the increased pace of displacement that by far exceeds the number of available durable solutions. This is a significant number of statistics for us to process, but data serve us as an important evidence base for our advocacy and to find solutions for forcibly displaced people. So we must need to continue to scale up solutions. As you know, part of the set of solutions available, there is resettlement and complementary pathway for refugees. Third country solutions are life-saving and a demonstration of responsibility sharing to the low and middle income host countries that in fact receive 75% of the refugee population worldwide. But resettlement and complementary pathways still remain limited. Can we switch to the next slide, please? UNHCR projects that approximately 2.9 million refugees will be in need of resettlement in 2025, another increase compared to this year. The region with the highest need is our region, the Asia Pacific, with more than 776,000 refugees identified by UNHCR in need of resettlement. On the slide, you can scan the QR code and have access to additional data on where are this need and the various refugee situations. So third country solutions like resettlement, complementary pathway, including community sponsorship, must be used strategically to not only have an impact on the one benefiting from it, but securing better protection outcome for the one remaining behind. We can close the PowerPoint, thank you. But we need to remain positive. As I mentioned, World Refugee Day is also the opportunity to shed a light on collective successes. And this year, global theme is solidarity with refugees for a world where refugees are welcome. And to be honest, from my point of view, there is no better way to showcase that through the community sponsorship pathway, where Australians themselves directly contribute to the settlement and welcome this refugee. New and additional pathway for refugees and programs such as the CRISP embody exactly what is needed at this pivotal time of record for displacement. Through solution, we provide freedom. I have spent the last 13 years in UNHCR working mainly on solution. And with partnership, I have used the sponsorship in a strategic way, and I have seen how it is a life-saving tool for refugees in dire need of being extracted from untenable situation. And I can tell you that story another day. But sponsorship has also the direct effect to enhance settlement outcome, build social capital, and through tireless work of the Australian community, promote welcoming and inclusive society for refugees. So UNHCR congratulates the government, the Community Refugee Sponsorship Australia, and the broader community and organization for their pledge on third country solution during the last Global Refugee Forum. UNHCR really looks forward to the implementation of the expansion of the sponsorship pathway in Australia, as there is a real opportunity to scale up through a permanent program and use it as a tool to address the urgent need I mentioned earlier and to truly complement the refugee resettlement intake. There is no doubt that Australia government and the civil society and the sector are demonstrating their solidarity globally and take some leadership. We must all continue to take a whole of society approach, working together and building support for refugees in Australia, where they are truly welcome and regain freedom. Thank you, everyone, and I will now pass on to Romy.
Thank you, Emily. I'm so excited now to be introducing someone who has come through the CRISP program on their pathway to Australia. Pastor John Chibemba is originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo, but spent 13 years displaced in a refugee camp in Malawi with his family before arriving to Australia through the CRISP in June 2023. John is a pastor, but he's worn many other hats as a farmer, engineer, driving instructor, mechanic, sports coach, and tailor. As I mentioned, he's settling now on Queensland's Gold Coast with his wife and 7 children. Welcome, John. If you can just take yourself off mute, John. Thank you. Sorry, John, we can't hear you. Can you see the mute button? There we are. Thanks.
You are here now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, John.
We can hear you, John. We'd love to hear about your experience of arriving in Australia through the CRISP. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you. I'm totalizing now 1 year and 45 days today since I arrived here in Australia. Dear Sir, Madam, before I start to present myself, I would like to humble myself to present God, the creator of the universe, the sovereign master of the time and circumstances. May his name be praised for the occasion and the opportunities that he has given us today. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our guest of honor, Mr. Andrew Giles, MP, Minister for Immigration, Citizenship, and Multicultural Affairs. Thank you to Mr. Peter Dutchman, the Community Supporter Group in Melbourne. I will also recognize the presence of the Community Refugee Sponsorship Australia CRISP staff here with Madam Lisa Bonton, Mr. Blaise Itabalo, Madam Shabnam Safa. Dear Sir, Madam, ladies and gentlemen, I would share with you a brief of my story because of the small time we have. My name is Chibemba Kasala John. Means Kasala is my father's name omitted by errors in the offices, but I would like to correct it to my official document if possible. I am from DRC, Congo, in a Christian family of 11 children. John is the number 8 on 11 siblings. I am ordained pastor in the Church of the Nazarene. I am married, father of 7 children. 4 are biologically, 1 girl and 3 boys under 12 years, and the 3 girls, I am their foster parent since 2013. I am the founder of Pastor Chibemba's Foundation, the caritative work since Africa, working with widows, single mothers, disabilities, dance from different cultures, both refugees and Malawian. In Australia, I am a Disaster Relief Australia volunteer. I am an Amnesty International member, Gold Coast, Queensland, Australia. Australia, yes. Dear Sir, Madam, my story is the biggest and stressful story to hear. I ran my country in 2005 in September with 9 children, mixed girl and boys under 18 age, crossing the Kasumbalesa border of Congo, Zambia, because of war and political issues in 1997. In 2010, because of defending our rights of the Congolese and Burundian refugee cases who were sold to the people, those people started against us night in the Congolese and the Burundian houses. Then everyone decided to look for protection in the plot of UNHCR Meheba. The case is known by Geneva. The case is known by Mr. Lynch, the one who was the senior protection of Africa Austral, and Mr. Alphonse, the one who was sent by SADC, and after our deportation in our country, the case is known by Teresa, the protection office in DRC, Congo, in that period. Brief, all those families, I have their ration card numbers and size. One group is still in Malawi because of seeking their rights and for others. Then others are in different countries where they were scattered. Dear Sir, Madam, today is a remembrance of the Refugee Day in the whole world, seeking to live in freedom. How can we still celebrating the Day of the Refugees to spending money organizing the World Days instead of thinking about those refugees still stagnating in a road of different refugee camps in the world? Talking about founding freedom, family journeys of refugees who seek freedom, but often face profound isolation, being separated from their loved ones and the communities, is true. But how to get the solution to those people? One day they can seek or call the country their home. How can we remove them on their stress if we cannot think about them logically? I and my family are saying thank you to the program of Community Refugees Integration and Settlement, CRISP, and the Unity Adventist Church with the volunteers for what they did and they are still doing for my family to come here for their teachings that we are learning in different areas, getting education from TEF, driving multicultural TMC, MFAO, tailoring made, and so on. I am very glad with their job and their ministry and their organization for what they did for me and for my family. I am concluding to ask to His Excellent Andrew and Madam Emily for their good position to help me to my request. I am a pastor enjoying my life in Australia, but part of my family and my friends where we run together are still unsafe, seeking for freedom. I would like to see them and to welcome them at Brisbane Airport one day. I would like you organizing the seminar for refugees, immigrants, and clandestine people to learn what is Australian Culture Orientation Program called OSCO that will showing us how to live together in community here in Australia, as the program did by CRISPR to our group before we fly to Australia. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pastor John, for sharing your story and reminding us of the scale that still remains overseas. John speaks in Swahili, Lingala, Portuguese, French, and English. It's wonderful to hear him speak so articulately across those languages. I'd like to welcome now a member of a community supporter group to hear what it's been like for them welcoming people to Australia under the CRISP. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Peter Deutschmann, who is a consultant surgeon and primary care practitioner. He's also the coordinator of the Yarra Refugee Supporter Group in Inner Melbourne. Together with his group, Peter has welcomed and supported 3 families who arrived in Australia after the fall of Kabul, and a further 3 single men from Afghanistan who had each spent more than 10 years displaced in Indonesia. Welcome, Peter. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'd love to hear from you about your experience with community sponsorship.
Yeah, thanks, Romy. Thank you so much. I'll speak from exactly that perspective. We've been involved, as you mentioned, for a number of years now in welcoming refugees, but in a slightly different way. The CRISP program offers the settlement introduction even before refugees arrive. And so we had the delight of being able to briefly form a relationship and then welcome 3 young men at Melbourne Airport upon their arrival, and then shepherd them to temporary accommodation, and in the first 2 weeks of their settlement, assist them to link with Centrelink, Medicare, a healthcare provider, English as a second language, and begin to learn something of their individual aspirations. These 3 young men had spent 10 years in Indonesia waiting for this opportunity. And each of them has chosen a different pathway. So we certainly respected and anticipated that difference. One young man took the opportunity to join friends in Brisbane, and so transferred to the Australian government settlement program, and the other 2 remained with us in Melbourne. We, with them, explored their aspirations, and they were similar but different. Similar in the sense that they had a desire to learn a vocation. One has taken a pathway more on a number of courses through the TAFE system. The other young man has taken a more direct pathway and sought early employment in painting and decorating, and is learning the trade that way.
Thank you, Peter. We've been loving following your journey through the photos we've seen. I recall seeing the 3 men at family dinner with you and your wife, Barbara, and a week after arrival around Melbourne on their bikes. You've probably had quite a rich experience of seeing those 3 different journeys, having welcomed that group of friends. Does this year's Refugee Week theme of finding freedom or family resonate in any way with your experience?
Yeah, indeed it does. It in a way, I think us as a supporter group, we were really a surrogate family. Those of us as old as me have know what it's like to chaperone a young child into adulthood. And so we had 3 young men that were, in a way, chaperoned on their individual journeys. We celebrated their independence, encouraged it, but often in very practical ways. For example, both desired to obtain a driving license early in their time, and 2 of our group are licensed driving instructors. And so very quickly they were able to not only obtain their license, but with the income derived from early employment before the year ended, they both had second-hand cars, and which increased their potential for employment, but equally their reach in terms of exploring Melbourne and beyond. So in that sense, forming a family was very much part of the product of it all. We feel very closely members of their family now, and in some ways it's a bittersweet experience, because they desire strongly to reunite with their widowed mothers who are in home settings or other refugee settings. And so we're walking that path with them as they inquire and apply through the Australian government for ultimately a reunion with family members.
Thanks, Peter.
The other thing I should mention, I think, is we recently celebrated the end of that formal 12 months of contractual arrangements. But of course, we remain in close fellowship and friendship. And we were thrilled when both of the 2 young men who remain in Melbourne sought to be part of our group in our preparation for a new settlement later in the year. And so we were thrilled that they wished to remain in the sense of part of a welcoming family. And whilst they settle, they're also very, very keen to help others settle in the very near future through the CRISP program. So we were thrilled by that.
Thank you so much for sharing, Peter, and hearing these stories of newcomers wanting to welcome the people that come after them. I think has been a really beautiful aspect of the CRISP as we've seen it mature. Thank you for sharing your experience, and I'll pass back to Shabnam.
Thanks, Romy. Thanks, Peter and John, for those very very powerful words and stories that you've shared, and the different what family means to in different contexts, and self-chosen families and families of our own. We are very fortunate, as I mentioned earlier as well, that we're joined by the Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Multicultural Affairs, the Honourable Andrew Giles, today. You've all heard him before. He remains a strong supporter of the CRISP program and community sponsorship, and I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce him. Hand over the virtual mic to you, Minister. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to hearing a few words from you. Oh, we don't have audio, Minister. Might try again. No, unfortunately, I think it's not just on my end. No one else is hearing you either. Okay. Maybe I'll let the CRISA team to troubleshoot that with the minister and see if we can go back to Romy for a very quick update on the CRISP program as the minister's just getting the audio sorted. Minister, please yell out whenever you've got that sorted. We'll stop.
Thanks, everyone. Here we go. A few quick slides. Hopefully, I think we all want to hear from the minister now, but I do want to take this opportunity to celebrate what we have done together as an Australian community. So each year at Refugee Week, we really, among many other things that we're marking the commencement of the CRISP in mid-2022. So over the past 2 years of the pilot, we've seen more than 240 groups across the country undertake a settlement planning process in preparation to welcome a household. We've had 506 individuals across 127 households matched with groups, and of those, as at the end of June, 117 refugee households have arrived right across the country. We're really proud of the global reach of the program as well, with the refugees coming through the program representing 15 countries of origin across the world. A great spread that the CRISP has been taken up right across the country. I've shared some percentages there because there can be some healthy rivalry between states, I think. So as at this year, it looks like Victoria represents 42% of groups, but this is changing week on week. And yeah, the split between regional and metro is changing week to week as well. As at the end of June, we've had about 60% of welcomes into urban areas and 40% into regional areas, which is really exciting in so many ways. It's been wonderful to see the CRISP really represent that whole of society approach that community sponsorship is really meant to do. This is about broadening refugee welcome beyond any one sector of society and having everyone be involved. We've seen faith-based communities really play a lead role, as they have around the world. We've seen Australia's queer community really leading the way in welcoming so many women's groups who are welcoming large families of women. Some of the cases we've seen come through, some of the families coming through with more complex health needs, including disability and neurodiversity. We're seeing groups who are really seeking out families with those experiences because of their own lived experience or lived experience within their family, and they want to share what they know. Education professionals are accounting for about 1 in 4 or 5 group members around the country. So teachers have really, leading the way in this movement in Australia. And Australia's regional and rural communities finally have a vehicle to be welcoming refugees into their communities, which is wonderful. We're in touch with all the refugee households and groups that are coming through the program. Again, these stats are sort of keeping an eye on them, but they've held steady for a while. We've seen that about 40% of the households that have come through the program have engaged in some kind of vocational study, apart from English classes, within the first 12 months of arrival. We've seen 68% of households have at least one member who have engaged in some paid employment within the 12 months. 92% of households still engage with English classes at the 12-month mark, which I think, is really exciting to see as an indicator of really long-term settlement and integration. Every house. Have we got the minister?
Sorry, Romy, might just stop you there for a minute and double check, confirm that we've got audio and video for the minister. Okay, can we get the audio team? Right. Okay. Nope. Still not hearing.
By computer.
Oh, there we go. We got it.
Yeah. There you are.
Amazing. Thanks.
Okay, this is going really well, isn't it? Thank you, Shabnam, and I'll try and start again. This is a borrowed laptop, I'm afraid, and obviously it was not configured for Zoom. One of the joys, as I think Lisa knows, is the Home Affairs IT will not talk to Zoom at all, and it looks like we've had some similar problems at my electorate office. So apologies, everyone. I want to start my remarks by acknowledging that I'm joining you all from Wurundjeri land and paying my respect to elders past, present and emerging. I had formed my thoughts and now will quickly reform them without some of the statements of frustration. I want to start actually by reflecting on how wonderful it was to hear the perspectives of Dr. Deutschmann or Mr. Deutschmann and Pastor John. And particularly one thing that John said towards the end that is, I think, a great testament to the broad impact of community sponsorship, and in particular, the CRISP program, and how we've learnt as a government about the significance of good settlement outcomes in engagement prior to arrival, and the nature of the bonds that are formed, the nature of the orientation that has taken place through the CRISP participants, the dialogue prior to arrival, I think is something that's really informed my sense of how we can do settlement better and increase the agency of refugees and humanitarian entrants in the government program. So I was really pleased, John, to hear you share that reflection. And I just wanted to not lose that thread before making some broader remarks. And the first one is to say thank you. And there's really two thank yous here, three maybe. Firstly, through you, Shabnam, to Lisa and the team that she leads at CRISA. You've done an amazing job in a short space of time. Firstly, in co-designing this program, obviously informed by overseas experience, but definitely locating it in our particular context. And I feel very privileged to have walked some part of the journey with you. It seems like yesterday, but it's actually nearly 2 years ago that I was in Gosford just before the arrival of our first family. And to think about the numbers that we just had flash up, and as a Melburnian, I did note the Victorian preponderance. So I hope that's something that can be both a sense of pride, but not a sense of satisfaction for Victorians, and a challenge for everyone else. And everyone else brings me to the other thanks, which is to everyone on this call, those who have been involved in the program and those who are thinking about their involvement. And I want to pause now and pivot to where we look at the world. Yesterday was World Refugee Day. Today, we are still in World Refugee Week, and it's a time to celebrate and focus on the theme of freedom, and in particular, from the Australian government's point of view, to think about the freedom that is attained not only in arriving in Australia and finding safety, but through having the opportunity to live a life with agency, particularly through economic self-determination and all that that brings. But we do that in a context of a world where there are now nearly 120 million displaced people, more than ever before, where there are somewhere between 36 and 37 million refugees. So the scale of our challenge is great. And the responsibility that bears on a country like Australia is significant. I celebrate the fact that Australia were not only there at the start of the United Nations and at the formation of the Convention, but that we have been receiving refugees from the very start, from that period of post-World War II reconstruction. Next year, at some stage, we will welcome our 1 millionth refugee in that period. That is a significant achievement. It's something to be proud of, but not satisfied by. And our government is determined to do more and do that better. We do that in large part by increasing our formal refugee intake and focusing it on those most in need of protection. We do that through more constructive engagement in the world and in our region, including on exploring durable solutions that don't necessarily go to resettlement. But critically, we do it through taking a leadership role when it comes to complementary pathways. And a big part of that puzzle is the work that is done by CRISA and by all the participants in the CRISP program. I'm pleased in the last budget that we found money to extend the pilot through to the middle of 2026. I'm sure Lisa has some suggestions for some additional work that we could do. I'm not sure, I know she's very direct, as she should be. And this is a really critical piece around the broader complementary pathways agenda that's being explored internationally through our leadership in the forum that just took place in Geneva, but it's really informed in the communities that make up our country. Every person who's welcomed through a complementary pathway obviously is something that we should celebrate in terms of the difference to their life and the difference to their community. But the one thing that I'm most determined about in pushing forward the Australian government's commitment for more places and for those places to be additional in the program over time is the expansion of what I refer to as the social licence. Because right now, on the one hand, we have greater demand for refugee protection than ever before. And on the other, we have emerging reactionary populism that is turning communities against refugees and people seeking asylum. One of the best defences against that is knowing refugees, walking some part of that journey. We have seen that in Canada for 40 years. We have been seeing that in Australia for the last 2 years. I want to see more of it. I want to see our best side demonstrated to more Australians as well as to more people in need of protection around the world. And I know that so much good has already been done through the leadership of Chrissa and through all of the participants. So to those who've been part of this journey so far, on behalf of the Australian Government, can I extend my thanks and my deep appreciation. To those who haven't been, I really do encourage you to engage with the program, with the training, with the fellowship, the sense of purpose that this engenders. It is a truly wonderful thing that people on this call have been doing and are contemplating doing. It doesn't just change lives, it can change the world. Thank you very much, Shabnam, for the opportunity, belatedly, to share some thoughts.
Thank you, Minister. And if I could take the opportunity on behalf of Lisa and the rest of the CRESA team to extend that gratitude to you and to your government. I think we're very much looking forward to continuing this collaboration and building on the impact of this movement. I think every day I can honestly say on behalf of everyone at the team that every day we're blown away by the compassion and the kindness that we see across Australia. There is absolutely the will for it. There's the groundswell of support. We just need to get there to the right people and bring them in. So once again, thank you for joining despite the and sticking through the tech challenges. It wouldn't be technology if it didn't come with its own problems. And if everyone else can join me in thanking the Minister and all our other speakers today, Emily Chipman from UNHCR, Pastor John and Dr. Peter Deutschmann, our own Romy, who got cut short a little bit in the middle. Sorry about that, Romy. I think you've all heard powerful stories and very compelling reasons from each speaker on why to get involved and how your local contributions can make a difference to this global moral imperative. And more people are, responding to the call across Australia. Please help us spread the word. Engage with us if you're not already on our from our social media to our website. We've got a wealth of resources on what you can do. I'm sure the team will be sending you some follow-up comms as well after today's session. And first and foremost, the best thing you can do to help help strengthen the movement is form a group. We've got a Facebook group where you can find others in your local area. Do check that out. If there are any questions or ideas or comments about how you can contribute, please do reach out to us. You can see some details on the chat. I'm personally very moved by this 1 hour, one very powerful and meaningful hour. And I also like to thank the rest of the CRESA team. I think they're, I can hand on heart say that they're the best people I've ever worked with, and I'm every day reminded of that privilege. We will close very shortly, but for those of you who can stay around, we are going to play another video of the 100 for 100 campaign that Blaise was talking about before, and the 100 reasons why to get involved. But if I could leave you on a personal favorite quote of the day, it is from Barack Obama, and he says, Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And on that note, I thank you all for getting involved in today's session, being a part of it, and I bid you farewell.
Community sponsorship of refugees allows Australians to know refugees as people.
We have a global responsibility, but we're individuals, and I think this is a fantastic way of knowing people, caring for people, and doing something that just benefits the community at large.
You can do something meaningful domestically without going overseas and rescue a family. There is a system and mechanism already in place.
I think it's really critical given the increasing numbers of refugees around the world.
I don't want to just speak the words, I want to live the belief and be part of the solution and demonstrate that it can happen, not just say, I believe in it and go about my day.
As far as Australia is concerned, it's very important. We're a refugee migrant country, and I think more people need to remember that and to extend a hand out and to get involved in a process that actually helps other people come to Australia and make their lives here.
Strangers welcomed me. Strangers really made me feel like this is my new home. And that is what community sponsorship is all about. And this is the opportunity that Australians have today, that they can make it easy for someone like me when they first come in this country by just welcoming them and supporting them throughout their settlement. It happened to me. It was quite helpful. And that's the opportunity that we're putting out there.
I strongly believe that when you provide that wraparound support from your local communities, inclusion and settlement will be a lot more successful and a lot more positive because they have those connections to the community.
For me, it's that personal involvement and looking at my own family's history and seeing what we can actually do when we just hold hands with newcomers, no matter where from or for what reason.
I am newly retired. I wanted to spend that time doing something of value with people who need help.
I believe any possibility that we can bring one extra person is a bonus.
You'll get that joy of watching people thrive and being part of their journey, which is really special.
From a personal satisfaction point of view, it's a wonderful thing to do because you feel that you're doing something for other people, and in the case of our group, for example, we're meeting new people within our group as well, which has added an extra dimension to it.
I think what you gain yourself is about a 10-to-1 factor than really what you even give to the family, and that's saying a lot.
The benefits you see from it are amazing. So I'd do it again.
So giving to others actually gives back to you 10 times more than what you'd think you're expending.
It's heaps of fun. You get to meet new people with a whole different outlook on life, and you develop connections that you would never do in another way. We have a group of people, and with our local knowledge, we have made a difference to someone. It is challenging, but it is so worthwhile.
It was the strangers that I met that made it easy for me, that really made me feel like I was in a new lane, that was wanted and I was welcomed and I was like everyone else. And that is what community sponsorship is all about. Strangers made it easy for me when I first came in this country. And I'm hoping today people like you and me now have that opportunity to do it for someone else like me. If someone made it easy for me, you can also make it easy for someone else.
And when we understand each other better and know each other better, we can live in a much better world together.
Basically, it is making the world a better place in the most beautiful way.
Thank you again, everyone. Have a good afternoon and weekend.